Perfect with no flaws at all are the laws of Allah. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Him to exalt the mention and grant peace to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I welcome you brothers and sisters to this particular episode, and it is a continuation of what we have discussed in previous episodes in regards to marriage. And I'm your host Abu Mus'ab Wajdi Akari, and to my right is Brother Abdurrahim Green, Brother Salim Al-Amri, and Brother Asim Al-Hakim. Now, we discussed many different issues and we praise Allah for the facilitation provided. There are a couple of other points which we have to deal with. For example, let's assume for whatever reason, either the parents are preventing the children from getting married, there's financial issues preventing the marriage from taking place, perhaps cultural reasons. People tend to go in another direction, not realizing the dangers that lie therein. Can you elaborate on what path that is and what is really at stake?
Riyadu billah, zina, which is a shameful deed in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned us against that. The desire has to be fulfilled, either legally or illegally, lawfully or unlawfully. So the lawful way is the marriage, because it is something natural. You cannot keep suppressing it. Suppressing that desire will cause something else. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted the marriage for the people and has prohibited zina, wal-'iyadhu billah.
What is zina?
Zina, it is this illicit relationship, illegal relationship with a woman. So fulfilling your desire with any woman, with the opposite sex, whether you are married or not married, okay, because I think they differentiate between adultery and fornication. And no, it is zina. That means having intimacy or relationship with the opposite sex. It is zina. And it is a shameful deed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. And see the beauty of the Quran. He didn't say do not commit zina. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَمَقْتًا وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا.
Do not marry what your fathers have married. No.
So here, in this regard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Do not approach the zina. So anything that will lead, any avenue that will lead to the zina, to this shameful deed, it's haram, prohibited in Islam.
So zina...
So privacy,
yes,
being alone with a woman, because that leads, as the Prophet ﷺ said, if a man and a woman
are in seclusion,
having privacy or together, then the third person will be the shaitan, the devil. Okay? So, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. So, no khalwa, which we call it privacy khalwa, with a woman. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Why? We should not approach the zina. Lower the gaze, because the gaze, not lowering the gaze also triggers the desire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created us knows this. وَقُلُّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّ مِنْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. Tell the believing men to lower their gazes and to protect the private parts. So there is a link between the look and the reaction of the private part.
For the benefit of the viewers, Sheikh Asim, because the term illicit relationship, intimacy, is somewhat broad. And it could be understood from some that the mere, touching of a woman or being with her in seclusion is zina.
So that's why here this hadith explains it. I mean, so the eye commits adultery. When you look, lustful look, that is a form of zina.
Does it necessitate punishment?
No, it doesn't necessitate punishment, but it is a sin on your part. That's why the accidental one, look, you will not be held accountable for it. But the intentional one, yes. Subhanallah. And this is exactly in the Bible what Isa alayhi salam said. He already committed adultery by his eye. So the looks and chatting and sitting, because all these are ways leading to the zina. All these, they lead to the zina. So Allah is warning us and saying, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. In the same way He said about the khamr, do not come near to it. So in the same way, anything that will lead to the zina, it's haram. And it should be blocked. So that avenue has to be blocked.
And I think there's a point that has to be mentioned. And it might be a bit sensitive, but I think we have to talk about it because this is an epidemic problem in the Muslim communities throughout the world, is the problem of pornography. What you have is when marriage is made difficult, maybe through cultural reasons, family reasons, one of the things that you find, particularly men, they start turning to pornography. And this, maybe not just pornography, with that masturbation almost is definitely going to come. And this is really a major, major problem. This causes serious psychological problems, and actually it's one of the reasons for very damaged marriage relationships afterwards. Because a man, and this is research done by non-Muslims, that when a man constantly exposes himself to these images of women in these films, he begins to think of a woman as just an object, a sexual object. He can't have a proper intimate relationship with a woman. Many of this material becomes extremely violent and very, sadistic, and they start treating the woman. I've had to unfortunately deal with cases like this. Now, this is a really serious problem. And I think that also the other consequence of fornication itself is that when the intimate relation between the man and the woman is treated as a pastime, so what they call casual sex, it's just treated as an entertainment, as a sport. What has happened is that something which Allah has given between the husband and the wife, as maybe perhaps Allah knows best, one of the primary bonding factors. What is one of the things that allows a man to bond with his wife and the wife to bond with the husband on a very deep and profound level is the intimate relation. If you treat this even it's called by some religions a sacred act because it's so special between the husband and the wife. If you treat this as just fun and games, then think about it. When you do get married, what is there that's going to keep you together? You know, I've done all of this, what is it? And this is the reality, this is what you find, is that, and this is another just beautiful aspect of Islam, you see how this religion, mashallah, gives us such a beautiful package when you bring it all together and you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this beautiful way of life. It's very unfortunate that people fall into this really terrible sin. And it's a sin, why? Because it damages us individually as a society. This is why Allah doesn't need us to obey Him or not. He has no need of us. We need to obey Allah because this is good for us, and this is what people should remember. When Allah has said keep away from this or keep away from that, it's because it's for us. It's for our own benefit.
So who follow that path and fall into that trap, what are some of the things that one should be aware of? Consequences of someone enjoying themselves without being legal wedlock.
As Sheikh Salim mentioned, that fornication in the hadith is not limited to the actual intercourse, but even the things that draw you closer to that. Though it's called fornication of the eye, fornication of the ear, fornication of the hand when touching, fornication of the feet when walking, the Prophet said at the end of the hadith, and one's private part either verifies this or ignores it. Meaning that the real fornication takes place when intercourse takes place. And this is the major sin. Not that the previous sins are not so serious. They are serious because there are means to the major sin. Allah Azza wa Jal does not make something forbidden unless it's harmful to us. And unfortunately, it is widely spread among the men and among the Muslims. I get so many calls and complaints from sisters from their husbands isolating themselves from the family and focusing on their internet, focusing, and usually...
Sheikh, I had an example, sorry to interrupt you, of one brother who didn't even want to have intimate relation with his wife. He would just enjoy himself with pornography. He couldn't even have intimate relations with his wife.
Normal.
He couldn't do it.
Impotency.
But he was masturbating to pornography. This is his problem. This is how terrible it was. Can you imagine this?
Yeah. Not only that, I was in a European country. I was moving from one city to the other for a conference, and a sister calls on my local mobile. And she complains of her husband, who is involved in da'wah, and organizing conferences. And so he's not a da'i, but he's so involved, he's practicing brother. And she's telling me that, and she told me about the features that are definitely the features of someone doing something wrong, which is giving your back to the wall and your face to the room. So no one can see what you're doing on your laptop or and he's putting the headsets and he's chatting, watching things up till 2 a.m. every day. And I told her that this is definitely something wrong. It's un-Islamic. You have to advise him. She said, Akhi, I'd like you to advise him. And I said, I don't know him. She said, he's sitting next to you. Allahu Akbar. I was shocked. The guy was sitting next to me. His wife was on the phone. And she's telling me about him.
But the Sheikh, the thing, it's like a almost endemic disease. And I think, again, we need to go back to the reasons. Scary that the United Nations is actually pushing for the age of consent, for the age of marriage to go higher and higher. Why? What is the consequence? The only consequence of this can be the increase in zina.
SubhanAllah, we dealt with some of the ayat, and there are some narrations we also have from the Prophet ﷺ in regards to the harmful byproduct of zina, but that will be after the break, inshallah, so stick around, we'll be back soon. Assalamu alaikum.
A way of life, a way of life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. So we dealt with some of the ayat that scare and frighten the average believer from trying to be involved in this abhorrent act of zina, wal-'iyadhu billah, which we said could be fornication and adultery. I believe usually the way they categorize them is adultery is for married people or previously married people. Fornication is for unmarried people who have never been married before. There's a difference in the penal code in Islam in regards to each one of these crimes. But what do we have from the Prophet ﷺ that explicitly warns against this behavior?
The Prophet ﷺ, as you all know, addressed the muhajirin, the immigrants who came to Medina. And because they're coming to a new country, to a new place, this was suitable to give them this warning so that Satan may not lure them down to doing something that is wrong and no one can recognize them. So the Prophet, and this is what usually happens when people travel, they tend to loosen up because in their own town, in their own city, they're afraid that if they do something wrong, they'll be recognized and blamed for. But when you travel abroad, no one knows you, so whatever you do, nobody's watching except Allah. Astaghfirullah, may Allah have forgiveness for all of us. So the Prophet said, Ya ma'ashar al-muhajirin, O you immigrants, do not indulge in things that may destroy those who destroy you like those who have been destroyed before you, predecessors. And among the things that he mentioned a number of qualities. He mentioned the first one on the list was that do not openly or secretly fornicate or indulge in adultery. Because this transgression, this act of evil, if you make it widely spread, it is the rule of Allah Azza wa Jal, that any country, any city, any community does this, Allah Azza wa Jal will plague them, will
send diseases
and epidemics.
Yeah, which they never heard before.
Yes.
As well. So these are new diseases they never heard of before.
And subhanAllah, I remember in the early 80s, this was greatly interpreted to be AIDS, herpes, and all the venereal diseases that were spread in the early 80s where it was booming. And now it's a little bit less, but it's still there. The HIV
STDs,
virus.
they call it now, sexually transmitted disease. And there's so many, I haven't even heard of them before. I mean,
there are new ones
always coming. New ones coming. It's like, what's this? Oh, it's another STD, sexually transmitted disease. And as the zina increases, exactly as the Prophet ﷺ said, SubhanAllah. And I remember some sheikh said it doesn't only have to be a sexually transmitted disease, it could be any type of disease. So the disease does not necessarily have to be a STD, for example. It just could be just new diseases coming.
And the problem is that these people who are far away from Islam, and they are not even interested in looking into Islam, they neglect, they're heedless of the fact that what Islam tells you is the solution for all of your problems. Now, they are not tackling the source, the core of the problem. They're tackling the effect and the byproducts of the problem. So they're telling you how to have safe sex, how to teach the children at early age in school, which shows you that these guys are not thinking correctly. There's something wrong with them.
In recent times, I saw some documentary or something about a carnival in some country, I mentioned in the country, and it's a carnival that attracts many different people from all over the world, and one of the special, unique qualities of this particular carnival is that the government will be donating the 10 million condoms or something for all the guests who have the tendency to come and get involved in this abhorrent act with the local people, the local women over there. And it's endorsing it, because people will do it anyways. So it seems that once the human beings are distant from their creator and from the legislation, as the hadith says, if you don't have any shame, then do as you will. And people just do whatever makes them happy. But this is a dangerous thing.
It's funny you just mentioned it. The hadith says if you don't have any shame, bashfulness. The Arabic word is haya. And haya is one of the branches of Iman. Now, if you connect the dots, as they say, those who fall into fornication and adultery, into illegal sexual relationships, have no shame, have no haya. And you're just mentioning this issue of this carnival. What do the people do? They think that this is art. They think that this is civilization. We, as we know it, see this kind of civilization in the primitive jungles of Africa and in the modern nations and countries of today's world. The sign is one, nudity. So the primitives in the jungles of Africa, they're nude because they don't have any religion, they don't have anything to abide by. You find the men and women losing clothes, right? And if you go to the European, well, not necessarily, but countries that do not believe in what we believe in, you find them praising nudity. And this is a sign of freedom to them. And this is the core sin or the byproduct of the sin of our forefathers, Adam and Eve, peace be upon them. When they ate from the forbidden fruit, what was exposed?
Their nakedness.
Their nakedness.
Are there any other harmful effects? What does the believer have to be concerned about in terms of the punishment in this life and in the life to come? What is at stake here?
Yes, here I would like to just remind myself and remind my brothers and sisters about what the Prophet ﷺ saw on the night of Ascension. I saw the adulterer and the adulteresses in that oven. Okay?
Furnace-like.
Yeah, like a furnace. Okay, like the oven. And the flames are coming from underneath them. And they are burning their private parts. That private part by which you were enjoying this momentary, transient pleasure. Okay? You will have that severe punishment. God knows for how long. Maybe forever. Allah, He knows. Subhanallah. It's not only that you are having miserable life here. Those who are leading such immoral life, they have miserable life. They're not happy. That's why this leads then, they become perverted later. Okay, so fulfilling the desire with a woman is not sufficient. So he has to do something else. So it leads to the perversion because now he is eccentric. He's not a normal person.
And this is the opposite, Sheikh Barakah. When we're talking about the barakah in marriage, this is the opposite. This is exactly what you think, is that it doesn't matter what you do, there's no
because
barakah.
this
you
is
get no satisfaction out of it. you have to find something more and more exciting, more perverse. You have orgies, you have all the sexual deviancies because there's no barakah.
SubhanAllah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Shaitan has many tricks, has many ways. So he takes you in stages, moving you from one stage to another stage, okay, until he takes you out of the fold of Islam. Shaitan will not leave you.
And I believe there's one ayah, if I may add this ayah just to bring the point home. It's a scary ayah because the person reaches a point of being totally confused. Whoever turns away from the remembrance of the Rahman, which is the Quran and the Sunnah and everything which Allah revealed, we shall assign for him a devil who will be his close companion. Not only that, this companion of his, this shaitan, will continue to mislead him from the path while they think they are rightly guided. And many people have reached a level where it's not a big deal. You guys are making a big deal, blowing things out of proportion. She's just my girlfriend. One day we will get married. And inshallah we will do tawbah to Allah, we'll do hajj together. And khalas, everybody.
Which is not true because, I mean, subhanallah, a human being, he has this fitrah also. You find, for example, a boy who's messing around. And then he repented and now he is practicing. And now he decided to get married. He will not marry that girl. He will come to his mother and say, Mother, I want to get married. I want her to be niqabis, you know. I want her to be this because he wants to feel safe when he's away. Someone to trust. Yeah. So I am telling the sisters, don't ever trust men. Okay?
Unless you're married.
Okay, unless he is married and he tells you, I am sincere, I want to marry you, don't believe him. Say, come through the proper channel. Okay, when Arabic will say, you come through the door, not the window. All the thieves, they come through the windows. Okay, so never open the door for him. They are indeed hungry wolves. As Imam Zain al-Abidin rahimahullah made it very clear. إِنَّ الرِّجَالَ النَّاظِرِينَ إِلَى النِّسَاءِ مِثْلُ الْكِلَابِ تَطُوفُ بِاللُّحْمَانِ. The men who are looking at women, they are like the hungry dogs roaming around that lump of flesh or meat. Just like that.
Excellent depiction.
And this is, subhanAllah, exactly, we see it every day. All of you, they travel all the time. The moment you sit and see a woman next to you, hi. Hey, hi. Mind your business. Why hi? And if she has her little boy with her, oh, cute boy. You know, you're playing with the child. Why? That's the bait. You want her to?
Allah understand.
This is a fact. We have to address these facts. In this life, we'll have miserable life. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. Whoever deviates and turns away from my remembrance, from my deen, from my way that I have chosen for him, he will have مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا, this narrow life, miserable life. And we will raise him on the day of resurrection blind.
Jazakallah khair. Our time is up for the episode. Jazakumullah khair for tuning in, and we hope to be together in the near future. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A way of life, a way of